Hello and welcome to Sim.pc, where right now is 13:23 in the morning. Wait, well, no, it's actually not the morning. That's a matter of perspective now, isn't it? It's actually more inclined to the lunch / afternoon. Anyway, matters less, it matters less. I would like to begin to say that yesterday was a bit more of a serious video than I thought it would be. Serious enough that I thought that I needed to add a disclaimer in the beginning of the video, me saying that, hey, I might not be looking like I am quite serious about the topic, but I actually am. These are valid opinions, or at least I think so, and I truly believe in my side of the story, even though it kind of looks like I'm making fun of that side, since I don't look or sound that serious all of the time. So, yeah, just a disclaimer if you watch that video and you feel like, what a prick, this ain't even meant. But yeah, that was how it was, because we got into all manners and sorts of, well, places that I didn't think we were going to. You know, I was looking at a news piece yesterday, that's how all of that began, and then we ended up discussing theoretically the difference between life and death, who's the right to actually taking that life and death, who has the right to own a child, what is owning a life mean, can you own a life, what is a life, all of these different questions. And that wasn't my intention to begin with. So as I said, just keep that in mind if you watched yesterday's video. Anyway mates, we're getting straight into the new topic today. Why? Well, because kind of short of time today as well. It's probably going to be a common theme throughout this month and half of next month, because I'm gonna start working. Yeah, it's gonna be all fine, it's gonna be all good, it's gonna be all dandy. But what I'm gonna talk about today is more of social convention, because we're going straight down that lane anyway. Now, haven't we? We've been talking about the wave-ish, kind of. We've been talking about people seeing each other on the streets. We've been talking about, well, and we've been talking about complaining and bragging. Sorry for the clip, had to actually double check what we've actually done, because I didn't remember the second one there. But today we're going to talk about one of the things that I think is the biggest problem with social convention. Or at least in my opinion it is, right? That's probably what, in my mind, in my opinion it is. Anyway mates. And that is, you're not allowed to talk about the problem, no matter how big the problem is, until it really is a out of proportion problem. Let me clarify that statement. So, for instance, this is going to be harsh, right? I'm going to be quite harsh. I'm not gonna hedge, because otherwise I would hedge throughout the entirety of this video. Hedging is basically me saying maybe and stuff like I suggest that, you know, not saying that clear absolute views. And I don't have a clear and absolute view on this topic. I don't. As of usual, I can be swayed to one side or the other. But I'm not gonna hedge throughout this video. But I am. But I'm just gonna state that now, so that if I don't later, you will know that, well, he actually means hedge, but he just didn't do it. So we're gonna talk about fat people. No, but one of these things is people being fat. Because, think about it. If I go to the gym 3 days a week, and I look like I do, I wouldn't consider myself being fat, now would I? I don't think any sane person would consider me to be fat. However, if I feel like I'm starting to gaining some weight, I feel like I haven't been to the gym as much as I usually do, I haven't been as active as I usually am, could be for all manners of different reasons. Maybe I'm, you know, very successful in my career, maybe that is why I have to prioritize the career before, you know, going to the gym. Maybe I'm getting a family, maybe that is why I don't have that much of a physical active life, well, because I have to stay home with the kids all of the time. That might also be the case. All valid points. But for some reason, right? For some despicable reason, that sounded wrong, but for some reason anyway, could be a magical reason as well, I'm not moving as much, but I'm still eating equally as much, just to put you into the perspective, and I feel like I'm putting on some weight. I can't speak about this as a problem until I get out of proportion fat. That's my take on it, right? And I was discussing this with a nurse the other day, because, well, I was into the doctor's office and I was having a bit of time to kill, yeah, before my appointment. So I was talking about how is it actually working in your field. You need to, or rather you have to be in these encounters all of the time when it isn't a problem yet. But if they're continuing down on this lane, it will become a problem, right? So for instance, if you're a smoker, or if your eating habits are out of whack, or if you have an unhealthy relation to alcohol, or if you have any other form of unhealthy relationship in your in your world or in your life, and it isn't a problem yet, but if you continue at the rate that you're doing with your unhealthy behavior, it will become a problem later on down the line. However, what she said shocked me, because she kind of confirmed what I'm thinking about this entire social convention. Because the social convention here, as I see it, right, is that I cannot say that I feel fluffy, or that I feel fat, or wow, I'm getting fat. Because I am not fat in comparison to someone who is a lot larger than I am. But if I cannot acknowledge that I feel that I'm going in that direction, if it's something that I don't want to do, right? I mean, if I want to get larger, then it's a goal, right? I mean, then I shouldn't complain about it, and, well, neither would you, and you shouldn't be judged because you want to get larger. If that's your goal, that's your goal. However, for argument's sake, let's say that I'm feeling that I'm getting larger, even though I do not want to. And I say that I'm getting fatter, people are getting pissed. Especially if they're larger than you are. Because they're gonna say, well, you don't have a problem yet, mate. I mean, look at me, you're still thin. And whilst that is true in comparison between two individuals, that one is larger and one is thinner, even though the thinner one is getting larger, in social convention, yet again as I'm seeing it, you cannot say that you're getting larger. And this is kind of diminishing a future problem, because if I cannot feel that I'm getting larger, even though I don't want to get larger, then I probably can't handle the situation as well as I could have if people were supporting me in me saying I'm getting larger at the moment. I know this is very nitpicky, right? But if we're connecting it to the nurse example, she was talking about that, well, if someone calls in, for example, and I have their journal in front of me, their medical journal in front of me, and they call in and say, hi, I have a problem with my knees. You know, the knees on your legs, not your knees, you know, your brother's nephew, whatever. You know, not that kind of stuff, but not family related, but my legs, you know, the knees on my legs, just to make this specifically clear, I have a problem with them. They're hurt, right? And so they call into the nurse's office, and the nurse is looking at their medical journals, and they can see all of these various different things. Maybe they've asked and logged their height, their weight, their eating habits, their behavior, their living habits, right? The living arrangements and the living environment. How they were raised, who are their parents, is there any diseases in your family, and so on and so forth. So the nurse can see all of these things on the computer screen. However, when I thought that this was going to be a dead given, right? Just call them up and they call them, they say, hi, I hurt my knees. This nurse should say something along the lines with, well, sir or madam, you seem to be a bit overweight. Maybe if you lose a few pounds, your overall quality of life will increase. Is that just me who feel like a hospital or any form of medical institution should give that advice if they do think that that is the course of the problem? Shouldn't that be the suggestion that they make? Suggest me? No, probably not just me. I think that everybody thinks that on some level that, yeah, they probably should. But according to when I spoke to the nurse, she was referring to this part of social convention as I was raising the awareness of myself because I think it's an interesting topic of conversation. And she said that even within hospitals or other medical institutions, they have a hard time saying that the reason for why you are hurting right now is because of you being overweight, because they're afraid of hurting people's feelings. I do not know if this is all over the place, right? If this was just the specific nurse that I confirmed it with, or if I'm just living in an environment where I think that this is occurring. But I do think that this is a problem, especially like in society overall, especially for our generation when you're supposed to be very politically correct. And yet again, I'm standing my ground. I think that political correctness is bringing more good than it does harm. However, it can have a sense of crippling different discussions when you come to a sensitive topic. And I would argue that things like these that aren't a problem today, right? But if I continue with this behavior, there will be a problem down the line. And they will create a bigger problem down the line. Or rather, it will be harder to rectify the problem down the line than it would be to rectify that same problem today. For instance, have a mate back home, actually, who recently picked up working out. And he picked up working out because he felt like he was putting on a few pounds and he didn't really like that, right? He wanted to get thinner, you know, not just to get in shape for the summer season. Not only because of that, because also because he thought like, well, if I continue with this, I'm probably going to grow out of all former proportions, and I don't want that. Key thing, he didn't want that, so he went to the gym to rectify the situation, changed his eating schedule, but this was all based on that he saw a problem or a potential future problem, and he dealt with it today when it was relatively easy to deal with, instead of dealing with it, you know, 2 or 3 years down the line, when it would be really hard to take that initiative to actually deal with it, because the problem would be that much larger, because he had been having an unhealthy relationship to both food and his physical exercise, that it would be just like, it would be like starting, you know, climbing for the first time and saying that you would go to the top of Mount Everest, in comparison to just starting climbing indoors with, you know, all of these different safety equipments. That's kind of the situation he was in. So it was like, I'd rather do the safety equipment climb inside with a professional trainer, yeah, than going to Mount Everest and trying to scale it for the first time in my life. Kind of the comparison between taking care of the problem today in contra taking care of the problem in a few years. However, this guy was met with a fair amount of critique. Especially, well, as I said, it could be just because it was my circle of friends, right? Could be because it was his circle of friends specifically. But I tend to observe this when I'm out, or I would argue that I've observed this with other people as well, even those I don't know. That when he was introducing that this is something that I want to do, and people are like, wow, you're going to start going to the gym, that's awesome, mate, that's good, that's really good. And he was like, yes, because I feel so fat. Or maybe he didn't explicitly say I feel so fat, I'm translating the different languages, right? But he was saying something along the lines, I'm feeling like I'm getting fat and stuff like that. And he has a mate, right, who's a lot larger than he is, and that guy was pissed. And I would say not rightly so, even though some people would say rightly so. And that was because he felt, the larger fella, that, well, if you feel like you're getting too fat so that you have to deal with it right now when you're not anywhere as large as I am, that must mean that you think that I am fat and I'm so much fatter than you would accept yourself to be. Does that mean that I'm unacceptably fat? I'm thinking that is kind of the mindset that his fellow was in. That thinking that, well, if you think that you're getting too fat right now, and you're not at all fat, and I am fat, does that mean that you think less of me, and that you think that I should actually take care of this? And do you view me as having a problem? Because I can imagine that all of these different discussions is taking place in his fella's head, and that was probably because why he was angry, the source of why he was angry. Not because of his choice of words, or rather not because of his actions, but because of his choice of words and what he was relating to. And what that fellow was relating to as well. However, what I do think, and right, this is just my opinion again. I think that, for instance, if I had a friend who is really fat, and I would have the shape that I do right now, and I'm saying, I think that I'm putting on a few pounds, I think that I'm getting fat, right? I think that I'm getting fat, or I feel fat. That is all in relation to who I think that I am, and who I want to be. Now, if my mate who's standing next to me is, a couple of stones larger than I am, let's just say, I'm not saying that you were unacceptable. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I'm putting in a few pounds. I don't want to put down those few pounds. That is why I'm rectifying it right now. However you look, I don't really care. I'm your friend because I like you who you are, your personality. I do not really care about your shape. Circle is also shape and all of that. And if you think that it's a problem, then it's probably something that you should take up and do something about. However, I will not come and say to you that it's an active problem. I'm just saying that in my case, with my own body, kind of the theme as of yesterday, I want to be able to take the decisions around my own body and act on a problem before it becomes a real problem. You seeing the theme here? And the social convention, and I think that I presented it in a good enough way now, that I'm not saying that other people are bad because they're not doing the same as I do, and that they're not having the same perception as I have. I'm just saying that with my own body, I would like to be able to take my own decisions, and I would like to motivate them in relation to what I think that my body should look like, right? Or what I want my body to look like. So if I'm saying I'm completely content the way I am right now, which I am, if I then put on like 5 pounds, I would probably feel like I'm fatter than I want to be, and I would do something about it, right? The choice is mine to deal with my body however I please, right? In the way, or rather, and I motivate me in a way that I think is healthy, in a way that I think is completely reasonable, because I'm comparing me to myself. It's a constant competition against yourself, right? Same with going to the gym. Shouldn't take more weights just because someone else does it. You should take more weights in comparison to what you think that you can muster. However, the social convention that is kind of getting in the way here is, one can argue, political correctness. I would not say that's necessarily it, really. I'm just saying more like, people think that when you are when I would utter something that is in comparison to myself, like for instance, I am getting fatter, that is in comparison to me. However, people is taking it as, haha, I think that, these extra pounds that I put on is the limit to what I call fat subjectively. And that is not the case. But that's probably, right? I don't have the conclusive proof, but I would say that's probably how people view it when they just view me out of context talking about it. So they're probably going to say, oh, you think you're fat now? Well, then what does that make me, who is larger than you are? What do you think of me? And I'm like, well, I don't think anything of you. Not like not in a negative way, right? I'm not thinking that you. I don't think any of you. I'm just thinking that I'm not relating my statement to how you look. I relate my statement to how I want to look, right? But people don't take it in that way. They're just comparing each other with each other, not with yourself. And that is kind of hindering you to actually take care of a problem before it becomes a real problem, because it's not acknowledged as a problem, because people are like, no, you don't have a problem. Sure, you did it like once, twice, 3 times, you've done it for a week now, but that's not a problem, right? It's not a problem until it really becomes a problem. And that's such an unhealthy mentality. Shouldn't people be more like, wow, you really changed the way that you used to work this week? Maybe you should rectify this now instead of, in a couple of months when it's become a habit. Because that will be so much harder to do. That's just my opinion, and I think that social convention is getting in the way of that, because people are comparing themselves with other people, and they're not allowing the discussion to be had, rectifying problems or bad habits and unhealthy habits before they become a real and established problem. Yeah, that was me rambling on about that for about 20 minutes, and I think that I came to a formal conclusion there, and that I presented my opinion. But if you do have an opinion that is counter to mine, or if you think that you agree, please join in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Yeah, and have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a nice one.